Hi everyone, welcome back to So Arizona. Today I'm so excited because I'm going to be prepping my stock tanks for this upcoming growing season. And it is second week of March, and so I have let a lot of my brassicas grow in these tubs all winter long, and now it is time to chop them up into little pieces and mix them into the soil so that I can use that as a natural treatment for the root knot nematodes that I have in 6 of these stock tanks. And that's because they are going to release some compounds that are toxic to the nematodes and kind of interfere with their life cycles. So then after I do that, I'm going to be topping them with new compost, and then I'll just let them sit. I'll keep them well watered for 3 to 4 weeks. And the reason for that is because all of the microbial life and all of the soil life is going to then get busy with breaking down and processing all of that organic matter. And that's going to tie up a little bit of the nitrogen for a few weeks, and then it will settle back down. My plan is for the summer to grow marigolds in these tubs. I know that it seems kind of a shame to waste the space, and it really is, but unfortunately there are a lot of things that are just not doing very well in these stock tanks because of the presence of the root knot nematodes that I got either from a contaminated plant or some contaminated soil. Since it's affecting 6 of these, I think that it was probably contaminated soil, because once I realized I had it, I was really cautious about not using the tools that I used in the contaminated stock tank in the rest of them. So I think that's probably what it is. So I've got a few options. So if you're battling root knot nematodes, you've got a few options too. One is that you can just turn off the water, because those nematodes need moisture for their life cycles, and you can cover it with either a black silage tarp or with clear plastic, and that is going to heat up the soil, trap the heat, and it's going to essentially cook those nematodes. So I could do that, but that means leaving these completely empty and unused all summer, and that seems like such a shame. The other option I have is to plant marigolds, but not all marigolds are created equally when it comes to the treatment of root knot nematodes. There are 3 species of marigold. There's the African, the French, and then the signet, or the gem. And the best one for the treatment of marigolds, the one that secretes the most of those harmful compounds from their roots, is the French marigold. There's a third option, and that is using beneficial nematodes and putting those into the tub. They usually will come in kind of a desiccated or a powdered form where they're sort of suspended, and you just add water. In my mind, it's like those little sea monkeys that I used to get when I was a little kid, and it comes with a little tank and a little packet, and you add water and then they come to life and they swim around. Well, that's what I'm imagining happens, but you mix them with water, you water them in, and the introduction of those beneficial nematodes is going to be harmful to the root knot nematodes. And the reason for that is because those beneficial nematodes will hunt or become predators of the root knot nematodes. So there's a little warring parties there, and hopefully the good guy wins. And I could do that too. Unfortunately, I really don't want to try to chop up the brassicas to utilize those compounds, plant the marigolds to utilize those compounds, and then spend a lot of money to add in beneficial nematodes, because I think that the same compounds that are harmful to the root knot nematodes will probably negatively affect the beneficial nematodes too. So that would just be a waste of money. So I'm trying to do this a cheaper way, in the DIY way, which is just in my nature as a Midwestern girl. And so I'm going to try to repeat the marigolds that I did last year. That seemed to be somewhat effective. It seemed to slow down the signs and the symptoms of root knot nematodes on some of my plants that I grew. And also I grew the brassicas over the winter, chopped those up. So we'll see how this goes. If this doesn't work, then I may actually try solarizing or covering with plastic and turning off the water. Or maybe doing the beneficial nematodes next year. But for now, we're going to try it this way. Anytime that you are chopping up organic matter, like cover crops or the previous season's crop, and you're chopping that up and you're mixing it into your soil, it's just going to take a few weeks for that to kind of break down and for the soil microbes to settle down and settle in. So what I'm going to do to try to make the best use of my time is I'm going to be starting my marigold seeds in some of my plug trays, so that way they have a 3 3 to 4 week head start. So by the time these stock tanks are pretty much settled down, I will be able to then put in my marigold seedlings. So that's what I'm doing. So I've got several different ones. Because I love the little gem or the signet marigolds so much, they're so tiny and petite and adorable. I have some orange and some yellow and some mixed ones. I'm gonna go ahead and put these in some of the borders of my garden because they are really beneficial. They attract a lot of beneficial insects, and I just love them. I think they're so pretty and they're so petite, so they fit really well along the borders. So I'm gonna save the really cute ones for my garden. But as far as these stock tanks go, I'm gonna go for the French marigold, and it's bigger. It's not as cute in my opinion, but it does the job. So that's what I'm doing. I've got some seeds that I got as a free sample several years ago. I think this will be enough to start enough seedlings to cover all of the stock tanks, and it's going to be a very orange or yellow area over here. And the bees and the beneficial insects will like it, but it is kind of unfortunate that I'm not going to be able to use 5 or 6 of these stock tanks this summer for what I would like to. So I'm gonna go get my loppers. I'm gonna chop up all of these brassicas. I'm gonna mix them in, go get some compost, dump that in, and turn on the water and water it in really well. And I'll keep it watered until it's time to plant those marigolds. And then I get to have fun with planting some of the seeds. I feel so fancy. I'm in front of my newly painted shed, which feels really good. That was a long time coming. I still have to clean up a bunch of the junk that needs to be folded and stored and put away in an organized way. And that is the key phrase there, organized, which is not what I've been over the last 6 months or so. And that's why it's such a mess. But I'm going to finish that, and then I will show you all what that looks like. If I could have a New Year's resolution for my garden this year, it is simplification, but also just being more intentional with some of my spaces. So I always intend to plant smaller varieties in these stock tanks, but I'm not always as careful as I could be. Last year I planted some Juliet tomatoes, which is a hybrid I would highly recommend, but they ended up being monsters and they totally took over one of my stock tanks. I also, the last couple years, planted some tomatillos in one of my other big circular stock tanks, and they completely took over. And that was actually intentional because there are such bullies in the garden that I thought, well, I'll just kind of isolate them so that way they can't take over and shove any other plants out of the way and shade them. And that worked out really well. But I think this year I'm not going to plant the tomatillos in there because I really want to try to keep this space more orderly. It was kind of hard to see to walk through there, and I was worried about snakes being underneath the plant matter that was like draping over all of the stock tanks. So this year I have so far only planted small or dwarf varieties in these stock tanks, I think. Now, the stock tanks that I'm talking about are the ones that so far are not affected by the nematodes, and I have 2 circular stock tanks that are about 5 feet across that I'm talking about, and then this one behind me, which is kind of an oval shape and it's 5 feet long, so it's pretty long. I've got some dwarf tomatoes in this one, micro dwarf tomatoes, and I've got some dwarf tomatoes in one of the circular stock tanks. But the other circular stock tanks still needs to be cleared out. I've got some mesclun mix and a few volunteer sunflowers. I will show you those that have popped up, and they are about to bloom. So I figured, well, they do not fit with my resolution of only growing small things, but they're almost finished. And so hopefully in the next 3 or 4 weeks, by the time I need to plant my marigolds in the stock tanks, I can just clear those out. So that is my plan. And then I will plant some small, I think peppers maybe in there or something like that. So I've got 3, maybe 4 stock tanks I can still utilize, but otherwise it is going to be a very orange and yellow marigold fest in there this year. And that's okay though. I am looking forward to seeing some of the bees and the wasps and some of the other beneficial insects that always seem to come to the marigold. So we're gonna make lemonade out of lemons here. Oh my gosh, so I was just clearing out the bed behind me and I found some of these French radishes. Just look how huge these are. That is crazy. These are way too big to eat. They're very, very woody and kind of fibrous, but I totally forgot about them, and it's too bad because I would really like to eat them. But somebody got to eat them because this one right here is completely hollow. I don't know if you can see that. Totally hollow. Something has eaten out the inside part of this radish, and I think it's the roly-polies or the pill bugs or the sow bugs, whatever you want to call them. I've got quite a few of them in these tubs, and they do eat plants. I know a lot of people say that they don't eat their plants, that they're just kind of decomposers, but they do. They totally do. I have caught them eating them. I've picked up things out of tubs, and they have been completely full of these roly-polies, and they are doing their thing. And there is proof right here that it ate my radish, but at least somebody got to take advantage of it, since I am so forgetful. I'm just going to show you one of these tubs. I think y'all probably have better things to do than to watch me pull out and chop up brassicas for every single one of these. But you can see, yeah, I threw the radishes in there too. But I chopped these up, little pieces. I'm going to be chopping a little bit more. I want them to be finer than this rather than so big, because that way they'll break down a little bit faster. And then I will top this with the compost. But I want to show you, on this side there were a couple of volunteer, I think these are leeks, maybe leeks or garlic, that are on this end. I'll probably just let them stay in here for now. Also, this little jalapeno, I'll have to prune it up a bit, but it actually made it through the winter. This is the stock tank that I was saying was a little bit improved after growing marigolds in it last year. So I'm hoping that the signs that these guys are growing okay means that some of those nematodes are starting to get weakened and die out. So we'll see. Now I just have to get the irrigation line in, and then I will be good to go, and it's just a matter of waiting. But I get to do the fun part now, and that is plant my marigold seeds. I'm also going to work around this kale for now because I'm not done eating it. You can see neither are the rodents that come in the night and feast upon this. They must be very health conscious rodents, because they have nibbled down quite a few of the stalks to nothing. It is coming back, so we'll see how it does. But I've got some that's still doing okay, so I think I'm just going to take some of the chopped up brassicas from the other tubs, put it around in there, top it with some compost, and then just let it sit. We'll see how it does. I don't know if that organic matter that's breaking down will affect the performance of the kale, but I'm willing to risk it if I can harvest a little more kale for a few more weeks. So we'll see. I've got a dilemma, and that is my nasturtiums. I've got 2 tubs that have those beautiful nasturtiums growing in them. I have seen hummingbird moths, hummingbirds, and lots of bees coming to these flowers, and they still smell really good. They are not quite finished with producing the seeds that I want to save. But that process is going to take 3 to 4 weeks, like I described earlier. And if I want to get those tubs prepped and ready to go for growing marigolds in to treat the root knot nematodes, which are also present in the nasturtium stock tanks, then I probably should be a big meanie and take those plants out. But gosh, it is so hard, because I really don't want to take away nectar and pollen sources for the bees as they start to emerge for the spring, and I really want to be able to save more seeds. So I am just going to have to think about this and see if I have it within myself to be this harsh. I'm not sure, so we'll see. Stay tuned on that. I do realize that if you're growing in a really small space, either in containers or raised beds or just a really small in-ground garden bed, that not being able to use your garden bed or your container or your raised bed for an entire season means that you're out of business and you're not going to be able to garden. So I know that that is a really tough decision. There are chemicals that you can use besides some of these natural practices for treating root knot nematodes that would probably act much more quickly, but I just try as best as I can to stick with organic methods, because I think that it is better for us, for our soil, for the creatures that we try to host and invite into our gardens, and just, for the environment in general. So I really try to steer clear of that. But I do understand the dilemma if you are in that spot. Just try to choose soil from a reputable source as best you can. But sometimes these things happen, you know, like I try to get organic soil when I can. All right, so I did the hard thing on this one and I took all of the nasturtiums out. There were some Swiss chard and a little bit of oregano, so I try to work around those for now. We'll see how they do. Now I got to do this bed, and I'm going to do the hard thing, y'all. I am going to do it because I've got other things blooming in the garden right now, so I feel a little less mean about taking away some of the flowers. So it just we need to make progress here. So that's what I'm doing. I think I'm actually probably going to have to be a meanie, but I don't know if I have it in me. We'll see. In an effort to be transparent, I decided that I needed to film one last little clip to let you know that I was so weak. I was so weak, y'all. I couldn't do it. So I cleared out one of the nasturtium beds, but this one was still smelling so good and just wooing me in general. So I decided to have mercy on it for a little bit longer, and so it's still here. So yeah, I'm a little bit weak. It was kind of unruly and hanging down, so I just kind of flipped a bunch of the vining parts up over itself, and the hummingbird moth is still coming to it, so it makes me feel a little bit justified, like I did it for them. But otherwise, it's all pretty much prepped and finished. I removed as much as I wanted to, and it's all ready to go. I'm not going to uncover those. There's tomato seedlings under there, tomato seedlings under here. And then over here, the last one I'm doing today, I have to be mean. So this is the stock tank that I was growing the Lozano F1 tomatoes in. And so the F1 would indicate that it's a hybrid. And you can see all of the seedlings that are growing in here right now from that. And as we know, hybrids are a mixture of traits from previous parents that scientists or seed breeders have mixed together for optimal performance or flavor or some other trait, but you cannot save the seeds from them because they will not grow true. So if I let some of these grow, I have no idea what I'm actually gonna get, which is exactly what I'm gonna do. Don't take advice from me on this one. Don't do this. If you have a really small space, this is not a good idea because it will probably turn out poorly. But I have got such a huge garden that I can take some risks. And so what I'm going to do is just remove most of these seedlings, and then I'm going to see what happens because I'm really, really curious. I wouldn't recommend it, but I'm going to try it and see. So I'll let you know how it goes. Obviously, I can't transplant these. I feel really bad about just ripping out these tomatoes. If they were heirloom tomatoes, that would be really bad. So obviously these are hybrids, so they should just be ripped out and thrown away or composted or something. But I can't compost these because of the root knot nematodes, and I can't transplant them elsewhere. So I figure, why not play around and see what happens, you know? Because I've got plenty of sherbet tomatoes out in the garden, so I'm just gonna see, because I'm curious. It is already getting so hot and sunny out here, and it is only about 8 o'clock in the morning. So I'm gonna finish up this project before I get too hot and too sunburned. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me in the garden. I'm Kara from So Arizona. Until next time, happy gardening.